So Starbucks is arguably one of the most successful franchises in the world. I mean, they've got 28,000 stores in almost 80 countries. Just about half of those stores are in the USA. And the first Starbucks location opened up in Seattle, Washington back in 1971 with three very fashionable partners who met at the University of San Francisco: Jerry Baldwin, Zeev Siegel, and Gordon Bowker. Now today, a new location opens up every 15 hours just in China alone, and the plan in China, one of the fastest growing markets for Starbucks, is to open 6,000 stores by 2022. But there is a country that turned their back on Starbucks, causing them to fail miserably and close almost all their stores at one point. What country was it, and why did it happen? Today on Franchise City.
You are listening to Franchise City, a better way to buy franchise.
Big thanks to Mr. Gain Train Wampa for alerting us to this story. Wampa has been with us since right at the beginning, so cheers, mate. Next coffee is on us. So way back in 2000, Starbucks opened their first location in Sydney, Australia. And at first, Starbucks assumed everything was going according to plan, and the implementation that had worked so well in other countries would also work in Australia. But it was quickly determined that Australia was not like other markets at all. In fact, Australia was the single hardest market that Starbucks had ever encountered. Now, over the next 7 years, Starbucks would lose almost $150 million in the Australian marketplace. And eventually in 2008, after years of hemorrhaging money, they decided to close 2 out of every 3 Starbucks stores and went from 87 stores all the way down to a meager 26 shops. Now, it should be mentioned that 2008 was especially tough for many businesses, and even back in the USA at that time, Starbucks closed 600 of their stores. So things remained stagnant up until about 2014, when all Starbucks locations in Australia were purchased by the Withers Group, who acquired the remaining 24 stores. Now, when we visit the Australian Starbucks website and we click the store locator map, it appears today they have a total of 46 stores, so have pretty much doubled in size since 2014. Now, the Withers Group, they're one of Australia's wealthiest families. They're also the owners of all of the 7-Eleven franchises in Australia. Withers Group Chief Executive Warren Wilmot was quoted as saying, "Our aim will be to make Starbucks the most successful coffee chain in Australia." Cool story, bro. Now, we were interested in seeing exactly where the stores were located that had closed. But when we visited the Starbucks website, we found this page that stated, "As we announced on July 29th, 2008, Starbucks will close 61 stores in Australia by August 3rd. Partners in the stores listed below have been personally notified that their store has been slated to close. In the spirit of transparency with our partners, customers, and communities, we have provided the full list of stores below for general information purposes." Excellent. Let's click this link. But what exactly went wrong with Starbucks that they just could not make it in Australia, and will they ever be able to make it there? Now, experts suggest several possibilities. First, Starbucks opened up in lower traffic areas and charged more money than their competitors. Now, charging more money for an inferior product is an obvious way to fail in anything, not just coffee. Now, to quote an actual Australian on the matter, Logan Booker in Gizmodo suggests, "The reason that Starbucks failed in Australia is because Australians simply have higher standards for coffee." Logan suggests, "When we order a coffee, we expect a delicious long black or creamy latte, not a half liter of flavored swill." Don't hold back, Logan. Tell us how you really feel. Now, in terms of their site selection, this was a strange choice. Not sure what the rationale was behind that opening up in these smaller markets, as these markets very likely had loyal customers at their independent local coffee shops. So, strange move by Starbucks. The second reason was they launched too fast and didn't give Australians an opportunity to develop a taste for the Starbucks brands. Now, I disagree with this because when you look at other regions like China or the US, Starbucks opening a store in China every 15 seconds, they're still doing okay. So it appears that most markets are fine with the level of growth. Now, my guess is if Starbucks had served something other than half liters of flavored swill, they might have grown as quickly in Australia. And the final and most plausible explanation in my mind anyway as to why Starbucks failed in Australia is that Australians are very particular about their coffee. There's about 6,500 independent coffee shops across all of Australia that generate $6 billion annually in coffee sales. Now, apparently back in the 50s, when Italian and Greek immigrants came to Australia, they brought with them very high standards of coffee and the massively popular coffee culture that continues to exist today. Now, the average Aussie drinks 3 to 4 cups every single day. Obviously, if that's the average, some people drinking much more. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how the Withers Group continues and whether Starbucks will, in fact, become the most successful coffee chain in Australia, as suggested by the new owners. Also interesting is that Starbucks has opened a very upscale stone and bronze location in Milan, Italy. This location is one of only 5 reserve roasteries in the world and is the only roastery in all of Europe. Starbucks suggests this is the most beautiful Starbucks location in the world. And thank you to AFP News Agency and Food Insider for their coverage of these videos. The links are below in the description. Now, we would be interested in hearing what viewers have to think about Starbucks in Australia or around the world. Good coffee, bad coffee, overpriced, and where do we expect to see Starbucks in 5 years? You're going to pick the best comment at random, and you're going to receive a $20 gift card that you can put towards this. This is the most expensive record-breaking Starbucks coffee ever. Cost $148.99. It was purchased by William Lewis Jr. This was a standard venti flat white with a mere 170 extra shots of espresso and 11,000 milligrams of caffeine. And Bill can be found on Twitter at @4BillLewis. So be sure to like and subscribe if you have not already, and massage that bell with a respectful click to be notified of new content. Thanks very much for watching.